Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today's phrase is to wash up. Now, you probably know this phrasal verb from washing the dishes in the kitchen when you're doing the washing up as a phrasal noun. You might recognize it from washing your face in the morning. You get up out of bed, you wash up before you leave for work. British people use this phrase to wash up in different ways. You can talk about washing the dishes, doing the dishes, washing up before you go out, washing up before you leave the house, for example. But there's also another phrase, which is when the sea, the ocean, washes things up on the beach. For example, the bottle was washed up on the beach. Of course, it's in the passive voice because it was washed up by the sea. The bottle didn't wash itself up. So it's very interesting, very interesting. There's actually a song called Seasons in the Sun by Terry Jacks, and it has the lyrics, the stars we could reach were just starfish on the beach, talking about starfish. And I'm mentioning that because I saw in the news today that many starfish have been washed up along the south coast of England. And that's quite disturbing. It says here, thousands of starfish wash up on a beach in the south coast. It says marine life, like starfish, are vulnerable to wash-ups at this time of year, particularly following spells of bad weather. When we have a period of bad weather, we call them spells. Yes, so for example, we have a spell of bad weather right now, or we have a hot spell of weather. So we use the word spell when talking about a period. When work dries up for a little while, if you're self-employed, sometimes you go through a dry spell. Even with moods, you can say, oh, well, my mood's been a bit down recently. I'm going through a bad spell right now. It's synonymous with the word time, basically. Okay. So marine life, like starfish, are vulnerable, and there's a picture here of thousands of starfish which have been washed up on a beach in England. The article says thousands of starfish have washed up on a beach in Kent, with the local council warning residents to keep dogs and children away. Wash-ups are common after spells of bad weather, and this particular area had some flooding. Starfish are those fish that look like stars in the sky. They're shaped like a little star. They have 4 legs or 4 arms, and they're crustacean. They're hard. They look like crabs. It says here, starfish, crabs, and crustaceans are vulnerable to wash-ups as they tend to live in or migrate to shallow water, meaning that they could be washed up on the beaches. And the report goes on to say that people should not attempt to move them at all and keep any dogs and children away. There's thousands of these things all washed up. It's really sad. You'll notice, by the way, that if something is washed up from the sea, it's always going to be in the passive voice because there's no other way to talk about it. No one else washes these things up. This apparently is one of the biggest mass strandings on record of any animal from the sea recorded by the Natural History Museum. Well, actually, I don't think that's true because there was another one in 2018, which was bigger than this, as far as I know, anyway. Um, let's see, what else does it say here? Um, Creatures like mussels, oh, they're delicious. Do you know, we had a lovely seafood restaurant in my town many years ago, and they always served mussels. And I remember the mussels in Barcelona. Oh, they were delicious. Mussels are the ones that are in those little shells, and they're not oysters. They're smaller, and you boil them. Oh, they're lovely, those things. Anyway, creatures like mussels, starfish, crabs, and clams occupy rocky habitats, and they can be easily dislodged during unsettled weather. Dislodged means when you are moved or something is moved by a storm, by a noise, by a vibration. You probably know this word dislodged because if you've ever flown in Europe, or in fact anywhere, you might have heard the announcement on the aeroplane from the air hostess. Ladies and gentlemen, when retrieving your baggage from overhead lockers, please be careful, as items stored in the overhead lockers may have become dislodged. Yeah. So these poor starfish, oh, lovely things. Um, yeah, so they've obviously all been washed up, thousands of them. I don't know if they survive out of water or if when the sea comes back in, when the tide washes itself back in, they'll be taken away. I don't know how that works with those, or whether they'll all be dead on arrival. I don't know. Speaking about mussels, that's the same sound as human muscles, the muscles in your arm, but the spelling is different. It's Mussels. Actually, I had some delicious seafood in Spain. Isn't it strange that in British English we only have one word for food from the sea, which is seafood? It covers everything. But in other languages, especially over the Mediterranean, they have so many words to describe all different types of food from the sea. Delicious. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story about these poor starfish that have been washed up. You'll know the starfish. They're the ones that look like stars in the sky. They look like they have little arms or legs. And looking at this picture here, they just look like little flowers. Really very sad. Yes, so wash up for cleaning the dishes, for cleaning yourself, and for things which arrive on the beach. We refer to them as being washed up as well. It's also something you can say if you're feeling exhausted and tired. You can say, oh, you know what? I feel completely washed up. I've heard people saying that. Some people also say washed out. And if you have an actress or actor who perhaps was very famous many years ago, you can also say that they're washed up. They're past their date of being famous, you know? So, for example, if you think of a very old actor, you can say, oh, that actor is washed up, no longer in the public eye, retired or finished, or doesn't act anymore. But in popular culture, we still talk about them. So we can refer to them as being washed up as well. I remember when I was a boy, there were many old actors and actresses still alive from the silent movie era. I mean, I'm talking about the 1980s and the early 90s. In those days, there were still people alive who were born in the early 1900s. And one popular reference, a washed up actress, and one that we still talk about today, was Lillian Gish. She was a very famous actress, I think, in the 20s, 30s, maybe even 40s, but she lived a very long life. And in the 1980s, she was still referred to. And even today, in fact, a few days ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said that his son was dating a much older woman. And I asked him, I said, are you not worried about that? You have a son who's only 19 or 20, and he's dating a woman who's in her 30s or 40s. And he answered by saying, I really don't care. He could marry Lillian Gish. I really don't care. And he went on to say, when the boy was 9 years old, he almost burnt down the town by starting a fire by mistake. And he said, after that, I really didn't care too much about what he did in life. He could marry Lillian Gish for all I care. And of course, the reference to Lillian Gish, he's talking there about the actress who I think was 90 or more than that when she died. So Lillian Gish is a good example of a washed up actress. Well, she's died. Uh, she's been dead now for many years. So I guess she's still used in popular culture, but I'm just telling you this as an example of how we use these actresses or actors in our conversations, and we often describe them as being washed up, past their date. Speaking of dead people, I see Eric Carmen died. Uh, that came as a shock. Eric Carmen was very famous in the 1980s. He had some hits with Hungry Eyes. Do you remember that one? And of course, his really tragic love song, All by Myself, which was covered by Celine Dion. Yeah, that was a very tragic song, All by Myself. So, Hungry Eyes, All by Myself, and he also sang Never Gonna Fall in Love Again. These are songs that you can check out, you can look at. Yes, Eric Carmen, he died. I'm not sure when he died, but the announcement came today. Uh, his wife said, our sweet, loving, and talented Eric passed away in his sleep. Oh, yeah, he was a real icon of the 80s with big hair, as they all had in those days. Speaking of such things as tragedy and death, I see that they're going to make an AIDS memorial in London. It's going to be unveiled, revealed, that's what unveiled means, in 2026. And they've already made a short list of artists, and those artists will enter a competition to create London's first permanent AIDS memorial. So that's people who died of the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. The memorial will be based near the former site of Middlesex Hospital, which was the first ever AIDS hospital in the UK. It didn't just treat AIDS patients, it treated everyone, but it had the first dedicated ward to look after people with AIDS. AIDS was a terrible epidemic which killed many people and created a big panic and stigma during that decade. You might think that creating a memorial is quite a straightforward job, but it's very, very political. I remember I had a friend who was involved in creating the Thanksgiving angel. That's the one in Belfast. They have a big angel that sits on top of the port. I don't know exactly where it is. I've seen pictures of it, but anyway, they created this big angel, and they called it the Angel of Thanksgiving for all of the sufferings and also for all of the good things which have happened in Belfast over the years, because that city has been torn apart with violence and hatred over the years. So they created this Angel of Thanksgiving as a way to remind people to be thankful for what they have. But getting that going, getting government officials to agree to it, getting everyone to sit down at a table was a huge, exhausting political um, job. It's not something which was easy. It happened in the end, but getting people to agree to it was very hard. You might think that um, creating some piece of art as a memorial would be quite easy, but no, it was very, very difficult. Anyway, that's all from me today. So today's phrase was to wash up, and the music I spoke about was Terry Jacks and his song Seasons in the Sun, which contains the lyrics Starfish on the beach. The love we could reach was only like starfish on the beach, or the stars we could reach were like starfish on the beach. Another song I spoke about was Eric Carmen, Hungry Eyes, and Never Going to Fall in Love Again. That's it from me. Enjoy your day. Bye.